Hello and welcome back to episode 4 of Knitting Diaries podcast series. I'm David van der Kamp and welcome back. If you are new here, then welcome to your first episode of this series. I hope that you are a keen lover of all things fibre related, because that's what we talk about here. So I am, if you don't know, a knitwear designer, a textile historian, indie dyer and all sorts of other things. But it's safe to say that I am just a fibre crafter. You know, I like all of the fibre arts, and they were always part of my inner self. So I'm so happy that you're here watching, so that I can share my passion with all of you and perhaps motivate and inspire others to perhaps pick up a few things and, try new things and so on. So if you are enjoying such topics, I would highly suggest that you hit the subscribe button and also that bell notification button, so that you are always notified when I post a new video. So today's topic is going to be about knitting and knitting methods, knitting techniques and so on. But before we get into all of that, I'm going to just update you on my progress for my latest design and work in progress that I'm working on. So last Sunday I posted episode 3 and I talked about a cardigan that I wanted to make, and I started. And last Sunday I finished one side, it was, I think, front left side. Meanwhile, up to now I finished the second piece and I finished the entire back, and I've already casted on and started for the sleeves, so I'm working them two at a time. We'll get back to those later. So let me show you. These are the two front pieces. I'm just going to show you so that you can see. So it's nice plain knitting, very nice and smooth, and I've blocked this piece, so this would be the front left, and of course I have the front right, which is this. Oh, sorry, this is the front left. I'm getting them mixed up. So this is the front left and this is the front right. Let me just push it on me like so. Okay, so there they are. It is going to be a longer sort of cardigan, to the mid-thigh, I think. Oh, I didn't take the back off my needles. Let me go in and get it off my blocking board so that I can show you the back. Silly me. Okay, here it is. I mean, it's practically the same, but I wanted to show you. So it is, of course, bigger than the front pieces. Right, so this is the back. There it is, just a huge rectangle of plain knitting. And I'm so excited this is finished, and I finished it in record time. It only took me 2 days to knit the whole back. So excited. So the next step for me would be to, I'm going to finish the sleeves first, so that I can wash them and block them, and while they're drying I'm going to seam these bits together at the shoulder, and I'm going to do a 3-needle bind off method, and then I'm going to pick up stitches and knit the hood, and then I'll be back to the sleeves, take them off the blocking board and push it all together. So exciting. Oh, and there shall be pockets. So I'm definitely going to make the pockets and attach them after the whole thing is complete. So yeah, that's going to be finished very soon, I'm hoping. So currently, like I mentioned, I'm working on the sleeves, and I decided to do them 2 at a time. and was a bit concerned that I've made them too small, but I didn't, and they'll stretch a bit as well. So I'm using my, look at that needle, sort of just stuck there. So I'm using my natural grey Old Mountain Wool 2-ply DK yarn to knit this entire cardigan. I mean, I love the natural shades, I really do. I don't know, there's something about them. You know, this is how they are when they come off a sheep. This one and the natural white. And I'm a huge lover of these. They're just so woolly. I mean, if you love neutral tones and you like woolly looking yarn, this is the one for you. You can check it out over on my website at vandekampdesigns.com. So I'm going to talk about a little bit about the cardigan construction. Now, don't be intimidated because it's knitted in pieces and sewn together. I'm not actually going to write it up like that. I am going to change the pattern so that it's knit front and back together, so back and forth up to the armholes, and then you separate and knit the two front pieces and the back separately, and then you join them using a 3-needle bind off at the shoulder. You finish the hood, and then you work the sleeves top down by picking up stitches and all the way to the cuff. Now, the reason I did not do that is because, well, I prefer straight needles, and I know people will come after me for that, but I really do prefer them to circulars, and I prefer seaming my knits. And the reason why is, well, first of all, because the way I knit, which you shall see in just a bit, but the way I knit is much more comfortable for me to do on straight needles or on long double-pointed needles and the Shetland belt. So also the garments are going to be much more secure, and they're going to last longer if there's actually seams involved. So it's going to hold better, especially around here and around the armholes. So it's going to hold better because that's where all the pressure and all the pulling happens. So it's nicer to have a nice sturdy seam there than it is to just pick up and knit. Although, again, this is just my opinion, so it's up to you entirely. I'm just saying that this is how I'm going to change and write the pattern so that it's easier for all of you who are not too keen on seaming knit. Right, I'm losing track of thought, and let me tell you why. Because I was looking at the Christmas tree on the camera and I was thinking, hey, well, that didn't, why is it, did I turn it off? But then I guess it's just taking a little break. Right, so I'm going to talk a little bit about the way I knit. Now, you might have noticed, if you've seen me knit before, you might have noticed that I'm an English thrower. So I hold the yarn in my right hand and I let go of the needle every time I want to knit a stitch. And believe me this is not my native way of knitting. So when I first started to knit, I learned continental style, me being from Serbia, and here in Serbia, which I suppose is in all of the Balkan countries and Russia and in the Slavic countries, they all knit continental style. So, and of course, I was a crocheter first, so I learned how to crochet first, and then after a while I learned how to knit. So it was natural for me to go into continental style, which is exactly what I did. So I've knitted continental for a long time. You know, I knitted all, as I was growing up into my teenage years, and then all throughout high school, and then also when I went to China. So the first year whilst I was in China, I kept knitting continental. But then at that point, I've studied the knit fabric a lot, and I've done a lot of research, and have grown as a knitter a lot. And I realized that I do not like the way my fabric feels because it's much looser. And I quite prefer a denser fabric. And I don't mean too dense so that it's stiff, but I find that the tension of continental knitting, in my case, is not as dense as I would like it to be. So I decided, you know what, I'm going to learn how to do English throwing. So I went online and I looked up some videos, and there was, a considerable amount of time me having a dilemma whether I'm going to turn to English throwing or flicking. And flicking is when you hold the yarn in your right hand as if you were to do English throwing, but you wrap it around your finger like so, as if you were holding it in your left hand to do continental. And then you never let go of the needle when you knit. Let me try and show you that. So you never let go of the right needle as if you were to do the throwing. Instead, you just wrap your finger around a stitch there, like so. I'm sorry, I'm not very good at it, but I can do it. Something like so. Whereas for the English throwing, you let go of the needle, you wrap the stitch and you pull it through. So this is the way I knit. And the reason I decided is because it's in the middle when it comes to density of the fabric. So flicking gives the tightest fabric, especially if you are from European countries and Shetland knitters knit using the flicking style. And it gives a very, very dense fabric, especially combined with straight needles or long double pointed needles. And that's why I'm having a very difficult time matching the gauge of designers who knit using this style. So that's why I decided, you know what, I'm not going to go that dense, but I am going to turn to English throwing. And ever since, I've not looked back because I get a very nice gauge, very nice tension, it's very even, and I have improved my speed a lot, and I mean a lot. So talking of matching gauge of designers, I'm going to share just a little story that's been haunting me literally for years. So I was in China at one point, and my beloved partner and I, we bought a book, Shetland. It's called Shetland from Marie Wallen. And if you don't know Marie Wallen, she is incredible when it comes to Fair Isle stranded knitting. And I've been a huge fan of hers for so long as I could remember. So I started buying all of her books, published books, including Rowan books. I don't have them here with me. They're all back in China. So I got at that time was a new Shetland book. It's called Shetland. She had left the Rowan company and went on her own. So she did a whole collection using Jamieson's yarn from Shetland. So of course I had to order that book. It wasn't available in China, but it was in Japan. So I got it from Tokyo. And I was looking through it and I was thinking, oh, which one do I knit first? So I was talking to my partner and we decided that we should, I think it's called Wolsey jumper or something. So I pick it up. It's very, very nice. I order all of the Shetland yarn from Japan as well. And it's practically a Fair Isle jumper up to the upper chest, and then it's moss stitch all over this part, and it's a drop shoulder. So also the sleeves are moss stitched to the half, and then below the elbow it's all in the Fair Isle, and it's only done in two colors that are very, very similar in tone. So I didn't like that, and I decided, I'm going to change it a bit and do add another color or so that I just get more accent and show the pattern better. And of course I'm obsessed with swatching, so that's what I went on to do first. I picked up my needles and decided, okay, let's swatch it. And oh my goodness, it was a nightmare. I could not match her gauge for the life of me. And this has never happened to me before, ever. I was trying, I went down I think 5 needle sizes and still had too many stitches per 10 centimeters than she had, and I was just losing my mind, and I was like, how will I ever manage to knit this jumper? So at one point I decided, you know what, I'm just going to go and cast on and knit the bloody thing. And I knitted it, I think I finished the whole, and I brought it with me to Serbia later on in hopes to finish it, but it's so dense and it's a bit too small, and I mean, it's lovely. I'm going to unravel it and probably design something and knit it using the yarn. I mean, it's a pity, it's gorgeous yarn. Actually, I have it with me. Let me go and find it so I will show it to you. I'll be right back. Okay, I got it. This is the jumper. Look, so pretty. So what I've done, you see, it's too small, it's too short, because stitch-wise, I had, my gauge was alrightish, but row-wise, it was completely off. So it ended up being way too short and a bit too tight as well. So this is what I've done with the color work there. I changed it completely. So originally it was only using these similar colors, and I didn't like that, so I changed it. And I noticed while I was fetching it that little Mr. Moth decided to enter the cabinet and eat a little bit of the wool. Such a pity, such a lovely yarn, but I'll try and salvage as much of this yarn as possible before Mr. Moths decide to eat the rest of it. Anywho, back to my cardigan. Was I talking about the cardigan or was I talking about the knitting? I can't remember. Anyway, that's how I ended up knitting English throwing style, and I don't think I'm going to change anytime soon. But the point is, when it comes to speed knitting, I've constantly heard people tell me, oh, how can you knit in such an awkward way? You know, it would be so much faster if you were knitting continental style. And this, my dear friends, is completely untrue. It's not about a knitting style, it's about how much effort and work you put into the practice of the way you are knitting and improving it. So the more time you spend improving your speed, the faster you shall be. And it's regardless of what style you are knitting with. I went on and studied quite a bit how to improve the speed of one's knitting. And I can only do it on straight knitting needles. I cannot do it on circulars, not even close. So I have filmed a little demo simply showing the way I knit and the way I practice to become faster as a knitter. So perhaps you are going to enjoy that. I'll send you off to watch it, and then I'll see you right back. Alright, so as you might have noticed, I knit using an English throwing style, meaning that I insert my needle into the stitch and then I let go of the right needle and wrap the stitch round and then pull it through. So I know that it isn't quite commonly known, but this could be a rather speedy way of knitting too. There's just a few tips that I can share with you that I've practiced for some time in order to speed up my knitting. So one of the most important things to say is that you have to find the right needles that you are comfortable with. For example, I can manage a great number of stitches in a very short period of time, but I can only do so using straight needles or long double-pointed needles. I can be quick with circulars, but nowhere near as fast as I can be with my straight needles, because it gives you very good support and the flow of the stitches is undisturbed, unlike with circular needles where you get the cord of the needles all fiddly and all of that. So That's why I prefer straight needles. And if you've ever watched a Shetland knitter, since they knit on long double pointed needles and are considered the fastest, my personal opinion is that this is why, because it's much easier to do so with straight needles. But to get to the technique, now the way I knit, I'm going to do it slower here. Let me just untangle my yarn. So the way I do it, like I said, it's English throwing. So I insert the needle, wrap it round, and pull it through. Just like so. Now it's much easier to do it faster than it is to do it, slow down. Since it becomes sort of like a habit of the fingers. But the key is to keep your right needle. This is the way I do it. I keep my right needle rather secure and not moving, so I don't knit with my right needle. I use my left hand and my left needle to sort of push up and down my stitches and move them. So I'm practically knitting with my left hand. So I insert the stitch, I wrap it, and with my left hand, I slide it off. So it's the left hand that does all the work, and your right needle and your right hand is only wrapping. And as you can see, my left hand is actually knitting all the stitches. Now, another thing that's quite important is to keep the movement as minimum as possible. Now, because we are doing English throwing here, it requires the most movement, unlike flicking or continental style, since we are letting go of the needle to wrap. One way to reduce the movement is to try and knit as close to the tips of your needles as possible, because this requires a shorter way for the yarn to go. So unlike when you do this, you have to wrap your hand all the way there. But if you were to just insert it into the very tip there, it's not as long of a way to go. So you just sort of gently let go of the needle and wrap it. And you can also practice that movement of the finger simply by bringing the yarn front and back of your needle, so that you can practice the speedy movement of that finger. So once you get into the rhythm of knitting at the very tip of your needles, I'm going to show you the way to slide them off, since this also helps quite a lot. So you insert your needle there, you knit it, the stitch, and now you sort of use tension to let it go off the needle, like so. Knit, and it just sort of flies off the needle like that. Sort of like a little tug there, if you can tell. And of course, in order to achieve such movement, it's quite important that you keep all of your stitches bundled up together, because you can't really get anywhere with this. It's going, I mean, you could, but it's not going to take you, it's going to take you much longer to, get across all of the stitches when they're like spread out like this, than when they're all bunched up. So when they're all bunched up together there, you really don't have a lot of work to do, since they're already there. And that movement is much more smoother and slick, just like so. Now let me get to the end of this row so that I can show you how I do it on the purl side, since purling is oftentimes much slower than knitting. Although I have to say that I do prefer, that's a purl there, I do prefer purl stitches to knit stitches. They're much more interesting to knit. Anywho, So my first stitch here is slipped. And once again, I'm going to bunch all of these stitches together there on the needle. And I know it seems like a lot, which kind of is, but that's how you'll get across them much quicker. And like we said, minimal movement there. And my left needle is actually doing the knitting. You just... Let me just move away for a bit so that I can show you better. So, we go into the stitch there. And once again, it's same like knitting the stitch. You want to minimize that movement there and just bounce it off the needle like so. And make sure that you practice as much as you can to knit with the tips of your needles. Now I know here I can't really do that since it's quite an odd angle for me because I'm filming. So I do pull them a bit lower there than I usually would. But it should be at the very, very tip there, like so. And that way, you see, there's not much movement happening in the fingers. Like so. Of course, like all things knitting related, it's going to take some practice to to get into the habit of knitting this way, and of course to master the finger. But I think the movement of the finger is quite most important, and that's how I practiced, because I was a native continental knitter, meaning I held my yarn in my left hand like so while I knitted. But then I decided to change to English throwing because it gave me much more even tension, and it was a tighter fabric. So I quite preferred tighter fabrics, and so I shifted from continental to English. Sorry about the shaking. This is all a bit an awkward position for me to knit. But I think that's about it. I hope that you picked up on a few things here, and hopefully they will serve you well. Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed that demo. Perhaps you picked up a few of my knitting tips. Right, but like I said earlier, it's all about in the practice. You should be doing whatever you find comfortable and whatever you find is your way of doing things. And what I really dislike is people saying, oh, well, this is how you do it, there's no other way, which is completely bollocks. That's not why we knitters exist, and that's not how we do things. If it looks nice and it looks alright and the way you want it to, then it works. It doesn't matter how you hold your needles or how you make a stitch, as long as at the end of the day you have something that you are proud of. And we knitters and crafters in general, this is why we do it. We do it because it brings us joy, it makes us happy. It gives us something to be proud of, something exciting, and it teaches us new things. So yeah, as long as you enjoy yourself, keep doing whatever you are doing. And of course, not everything is in the speed. There's a knitwear designer whom I've admired for such a long time, Di Gilpin. She's from Scotland, and she did a video a long while ago, and she said that she's not a speedy knitter at all, not because she can't knit fast, it's because she chooses not to. It gives her more time to focus on every stitch and focus on how the garment is constructed and how it grows, so it gives her pleasure to do it slowly. So yeah, I think that's the topic of speed knitting. As long as you are kind to everyone and do not dismiss their way of doing things, I think we are all fine. So, I just remembered something that I wanted to mention but forgot almost, regarding the cardigan. So I will be finished with it definitely by next episode. I'm thinking most likely in a day or two. But in the next episode it shall be done completely so that I can show it to you. I'll put it on and show it to you. And I'm also going to film a tutorial on how to attach a pocket, because the pocket in this in this design is sewn on after the whole thing is completed. So they're not knitted and left on hold as you go. They're called patched pockets because you knit a square and then you attach it. So I'm going to film a tutorial on how to do it seamlessly so that there's no indication that it's been sewn on anywhere. So I went on online and I googled those sewing techniques and I couldn't find any, and there's a very neat way of attaching pockets and it really is seamless. So I'm definitely going to make that tutorial so that, you know, if you decide to knit the cardigan, you know how the pockets are attached. And believe me, once you learn how to do it, you'll never do it any other way. Such fun and so satisfying. And also, if by any chance you are a test knitter, I will be looking for testers for this cardigan. So if you would like to test knit this cardigan for me, you can send me an email that I shall insert right here. So send me an email and say that you're interested, and I'll send you the pattern, or if we end up working together, so I'll send you the pattern and you can test knit it for me. And I think that I'm going to give a 30-day period for the completion of the test knitting, so you have like a month to complete the pattern. And also I'm going to write the cardigan in 3 sizes only, because one size actually is fitting for the both sizes, so S and M will be together and L and XL are together. Since it's such a loose fitting large cardigan with a lot of positive ease, and it's meant to be slightly oversized, so there's no point in writing each size separately because that will take away from the aesthetic and the look of the cardigan. So there will be 3 sizes. So like I said, if you would like to test knit for me, do let me know and I will gladly have a chat with you so that we can discuss the details further. Right, so as I was sitting and thinking the other day, I was thinking, why don't I knit, why don't I wear more of the things that I've knitted? And I really cannot answer that question because I myself am not sure why. I just sort of feel like I'm collecting all of my knitwear and it just sits in a shelf, sort of like an exhibition, you know. But there are a few things that I'm beyond happy that I've knitted them, and I wear them all the time. So the cardigan that I'm currently knitting, I mentioned in the previous episode. If you haven't watched it, please go back and give it a watch. And there's also a demo on how to use a distaff and a wand to spin your yarn. So in that episode I mentioned that the cardigan I'm currently knitting is actually not the first time I'm making it. I've made 2 years ago, about 9 years ago, and I've been wearing them every year ever since. So that's why I'm knitting this pattern and writing this pattern so that, you know, I can share it with all of you and I'll have a 3rd one to wear. So that's one of them. And the second one is a pattern that I published last year that I'm going to show you. And of course, it's knitted in the natural grey and the natural white, and it's an all-over cable wrap. It's knitted using my Aran wool, which is currently not available on my website. But if you would like to get the naturals in Aran weight, which are 3-ply, about 150 meters per 100 grams, you can contact me also via email, and I'll gladly get some for you and send it. So this is the wrap. It's called Willow Wrap, and it's an all-over cable, and it has this delicious cable, with a very large cable, which I absolutely love. This has to be my favorite cable design ever, and I'm thinking I should perhaps do a jumper with these cables. Anywho, so it is rather large. I made it large because I'm rather tall, so I like my wraps long and shawls and scarves. And look, this is so warm, and this is probably my most worn piece of knitting ever. I wear it every year. As soon as it turns cold, this is my go-to shawl to go out with. And I absolutely love it. It's so squishy and it's so warm. And I've done a macrame edging there, which it's a bit hard to see. So it's a triangle macrame fringe, and on this side it's done in white. Perhaps it's easier to see here, if you can. Sorry, it got a bit wonky because I've had it there, but I think it just adds a little bit of drama at the edges. Of course, that's optional. If you would like to knit it, you can knit the whole pattern and make it one color. I've done color blocking here, but you can make it whatever you like and using whatever yarn you like, as long as it has 3 or more plies, because that's the best type of yarn to showcase cable work best. Because if it has fewer ply, 2-ply or 1-ply, they're going to be rather flat, and they're not going to show as well in 3D as cables should. So always opt to use multiple plied yarn, because it will give you the best results. And this is, like I said, 3-ply. You can see the grey part here, and this is the same grey that I'm using to knit my cardigan. So I think the two of them together shall be a perfect winter outfit, which I absolutely cannot wait to wear. Such fun and so exciting. I love it. I am going to put a link to the pattern down in the description box below, so if you want to check it out, it's both available on my website and in my Ravelry page. So if you'd like to knit it, you can check it out there. And if you do end up knitting it, please tag me on Instagram or post it in your Ravelry project page so that I can see it. Irina Shah has knitted hers. I think it was blue, of course. I mean, what else can it be? And I've seen some wonderful colours. Another friend of mine, Esther, I think she's knitted them in black and white, which I also love. And I think perhaps I should knit another one in different colours. What do you say? Anyway, this is, like I said, my absolute favourite piece of knitting I've ever done. Love it to death, literally. Please do let me know down in the comments what's your favourite project that you've ever done. I would love to hear. Also, let me know what's your favourite type of knitting. Is it cables? Is it ferrule stranded colour work? Or is it lace knitting? Do you like plain knitting best? What's your favourite colours? All of that stuff. Let me know in the comments. I would be most curious to hear all of your personal preferences and ideas on what you like. I personally am a huge fan of cable knitting. I should probably do more of that. I haven't done any cables in a while. Except for the Icarus shawl, I did the cable edging. But I should definitely knit a jumper or something with cables. I mean, it's best time of the year for that. Sweater weather. So, right, oh my goodness, I'm not taking it off. It's staying on here till the rest of the podcast. Let me pull my braids out. Oh look, I look fabulous. Anywho, so I am hoping to finish the sleeves today tomorrow perhaps. I have some other things that I have to do. I have a board meeting which I'm a member of for the cultural center of my region here. So we have a board meeting on Wednesday, so that shall take some time. But I'm looking forward to finishing the cardigan and then starting a new design, which I had. I came up with it in my head while I was knitting the back for the cardi, and absolutely cannot wait to do a swatch and to start knitting it. It's a brilliant idea. So it's going to be a ribbed jumper, but I'm going to do some clever shaping there so that it's, you know, it's quite striking at the yoke. It will be a yoke jumper, and I'll have to pick the colors in which to knit it. I'm going to do solid colors, one color only. So perhaps give me an idea, give me some suggestion on, you know, what colors you'd like me to knit. I have a few options. Let me show you. Okay, so I had these 3 colors in mind. One of the 3, and there's also a very nice dark olive green that I have, but I don't have it in skeins now, so you can check it out on my website. It's a very deep dark olive green color. So I have the peach, although I'm not sure that this is my color, so let's take this one out. So it brings us to these 2. So this is the shade of sand. It's sort of like a champagne sandy color, and I'm sort of really leaning towards this ochre yellow, orange, it's ochre, so right, there it is. So I really like this color. It's a fall color, and I think it will suit my skin tone very nicely. So what do you think? What should I do? Or should I perhaps do it in the natural white, like I did here? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear your opinion. Anyway, right, so I think that's about it for today's episode. Thank you so very much for staying with me, for hearing me out a bit, you know, keeping me company. If you enjoy this type of content and my podcast, I would be most appreciative if you were to subscribe and like and comment, hit the notification bell button, because it will help me grow, and of course it shall keep me encouraged and motivated to keep creating these videos so that, you know, you can enjoy them. So if you like my podcast, please consider doing so, and I would be so very grateful to all of you. Right, so thank you for watching. I shall see you next week, probably Saturday or Sunday, with episode 5. Until then, I shall say ta-ta.